Here we go. Everybody's joining us. Brilliant. Hi, everybody. Lovely to have you at the meeting. We can see you all joining, which is great. Waiting on a few other people to come in through the lobby at the moment. Just to let you know, we are going to record this meeting, just so that you're aware. So the system's going to record it so that we can share it with other employers who weren't able to make the webinar today. I'm going to go back to my first slide. I've moved on unnecessarily. Sam, do you want to let me know when we've got most of the people we were expecting, and then I'll make a start?
I think it's, I know Gary can't make it, so I think it's me and Mark is here.
That's lovely. Thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Is that Sam?
Yes.
Hi, Sam. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it looks like we're all good.
Okay, fantastic. Well, brilliant. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar about Content Creator, our brand new apprenticeship that we're going to launch next year at Chichester College. My name's Sally. I look after creative apprenticeships at Chichester College Group. I look after a number of different standards across the creative industries, and I work with Sam and Vicky, who you can see on the screen at the moment. And I'll get them to introduce themselves in a minute. So my role in creative industries apprenticeships is to look after the kind of delivery and the management of our creative programs, and that's across live performing arts, film, television, media, audiovisual, and community outreach. In fact, I do a cultural and community outreach apprenticeship as well. And I look after some fantastic teams that run absolutely brilliant apprenticeships for us. We're very fortunate in that we have a lot of industry experts who work with us, and Vicky is one of them. So Vicky's joining us this year as our content creator trainer and assessor. Vicky, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and just say where you come from and what you're going to be doing for us?
Yeah, sure. Excuse me. Hello, I'm Vicky. So I'm with Chichester College Group. So I teach on level 3 creative media. I also am going to be developing the content creator apprenticeship. I also teach within the virtual TV studio that we have. So working with emerging technologies. I have a background within endpoint assessing, so I'm able to support the students within their final endpoint assessment, as well as throughout their progress along the course.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Vicky, so much. And then everybody who you probably met Sam or might have had some communication from our sales executive, Sam. But do you want to tell us a little bit more about your job, Sam? I might have given you a job role. I might have said your job role differently then. You've got a new job, haven't you?
I team leader the sales in this department now, so yes, thank you. So yeah, my name's Sam Deco. So you would have had invites to this session from myself, obviously trying to outreach to employers and to learners who are interested in the content creator delivery that we're offering. Very exciting. But my role is to basically, once you sort of feel that this is the right path for you, I will take you on that journey in terms of either being an employer or a learner, to get your enrolment started and make sure you have everything you need to sort of start that journey to be passed over to the lovely Vicky and Sally.
Thanks, Sam. So the point of today's session, we have scheduled it to be an hour, but I'm hoping it won't take as long as that, is to just give you an opportunity to hear a little bit about what an apprenticeship is, because some of you may never worked with apprentices before. So we'll do a quick sort of whistle stop about actually what an apprentice is and what it might be like having one in your organisation, or being one if you're here as an apprentice who's interested in taking on a role. Then I'll talk a little bit more, and Vicky and I will talk a little bit more about the programme itself and tell you kind of what it's going to be like and how it's going to work, and then hopefully open up the opportunity for you to answer questions. If I say something as I go through this presentation, please feel free to unmute and ask me a question, or if you pop it in the chat. Is the chat active, Sam, or should we use Q&A? What's the easiest way to do this? You're on mute. I can't hear you.
Oh, it's always fun, isn't it? Yeah, the chat is active. I'm quite happy to look at that, or Q&A, whatever works for anyone. That's absolutely fine.
Great. So you can type your questions in there, and then we can stop every so often. Sam will let me know if there's a question. So I'll just make a start, and yeah, we'll spend a little bit of time getting to know each other. So the first thing to say is that we're talking about the Content Creator Level 3 apprenticeship today. We're going to be offering it as a remote delivery programme. What that means is we're able to expand our provision nationally. So we get a huge range of experience in the classroom then. We get a lot of opportunity to share skills and knowledge across a number of different sectors. But it also means that we can expand the programme to ensure that we have enough apprentices to build a cohort, which is really important for us. We've already got a few apprentices signed up, which is quite exciting. We don't know who the actual apprentices are, but we've got an employer who's very keen to start with us. So that's very good. And we're hoping that we'll have a really good cohort to start with the group in January, but we're realizing that for some of you, you might be at the beginning of that journey and you might need a little bit of hand holding as we go through that process. So we're here to do that as well, if you're interested. Importantly to note is that the college group is outstanding, and our apprenticeship programme was graded outstanding specifically in the last Ofsted inspection. Now, for some of you, that might not mean very much. You may not come from education circles, or you might be aware of it from family or friends who've got children at school. But it's a really big deal in education circles, and it's really not easy to get an outstanding mark, particularly nowadays with the new grading for Ofsted. So it was quite a feat to do that. And I think the reason I'm saying this to you is I want you to know that the quality of our provision is really important to us, particularly to me in creative industries. In our area, we have an enormously high success rate. We have 100% pass rate for all of the apprentices who complete the apprenticeship, which is about 40% above national average. We work really hard to have good relationships with the employers and with the apprentices, and we employ experts to teach the sessions. Everybody has industry experience before they come and they train with us, which is important to note. And there won't be different on Content Creator. So first things to say, just to tell you what an apprenticeship is. So firstly, it's a real job. It's a paid employment where you as the employer will employ a person who will become your apprentice. So you give them a contract of employment in the same way that you would give anybody else a contract of employment. And they follow your terms and conditions for that contract. There are some stipulations that we have to make as part of that contracting process. For example, the length of their contract needs to cover the term of the training. The minimum wage that you can pay them has to be suitable for an apprentice or above. We like to recommend national minimum wage, but we're very aware that not all organisations can pay that wage. And we need to check that the number of hours that they're going to be working for you each week reaches the minimum requirement for an apprenticeship. But apart from that, they fall under all of your own recruitment processes. Hopefully you'll be able to offer competitive salaries, but certainly for an apprentice who's choosing this over an HE provision, it's a very competitive salary because it's saving them £9,500 a year. It is a formal recognised qualification, so it's something that can go on their CVs when they finish training with you. But the wonderful thing about an apprenticeship is it's also a number of months. This apprenticeship is 18 months. So it's 18 months of industrial experience. It's 18 months of having worked in an organisation and got industry knowledge, which you would have to start from if you came out of an HE programme. So it's really beneficial to most apprentices. Just for information purposes, an apprenticeship can be anywhere between 1 and 4 years, depending on the level of the apprenticeship. In fact, some of the higher and degree level apprenticeships even take a bit longer than that. And as I said, this one is 18 months. So 15 months of training plus 3 months getting ready for the endpoint assessment. There's absolutely no cost to the apprentice, so they don't have to take any student loans or apply for student finance, which does mean that they could still then go on. If they wanted to take this into a different field or move into another area where there isn't a higher level apprenticeship, they could still go to drama school or university. They do need to get their UCAS points prior to that, though. Apprenticeships don't currently carry UCAS points, but that's about to change. And we offer a load of different apprenticeships here. So you can choose to be an apprentice from the age of 16, where you might come in and do a level 2 or a level 3, or you can choose to be an apprentice when you are 56 and come in and do an apprenticeship at any of the levels that we do, or 66. So that's how an apprenticeship works. Apprenticeships are available too. This little line at the top is really important. So anybody over the age of 16 can be an apprentice. In England, you have to be in education up until you're at the age of 18, and an apprenticeship counts as that formal education. So that's important to note. And it's open to anybody who, as an apprentice, you can't have a full-time education role somewhere else. So they couldn't, say, for example, do a part-time job with you and do a full-time education role, because the government then would be giving them double funding for their training, and they can only get funding in one respect for a full-time course. They have to have lived in the UK or been educated in the UK for a minimum of 3 years before they can become an apprentice. But other than that, there are no caveats. There's no upper age limit, so you can be an apprentice at any age. And you can be an apprentice if you're already employed in an organisation. So some of you employers might be here today with other people in your organisation who maybe have just started, or you know people who you'd like to bring in. But if you have somebody inside who you'd like to upskill or offer them a qualification, we can take them onto the apprenticeship. And in fact, there's no need to change their contract or anything other than that. There are some stipulations that the apprenticeship requires in terms of time commitment, but in terms of financial commitment or contractual change, you wouldn't need to do anything other than ensure that they could do the job in the right topic. This is just a little breakdown of the apprenticeships that we offer at Chichester College. These are all the areas and the fields that we work in. So you can see that we have a huge provision. The good news about that means that we've got whole load of teams of people who work on all of the processes before, during and after the apprenticeship, which means that you'll be taken very good care of. Onboarding apprentices into the digital system, the government's DAS system is incredibly complex, but we have a whole bunch of experts who are really brilliant at that, all beautifully led by Sam. So we fall under creative and design, and as I said to you earlier, we have a number of creative design programs that are interesting for you. And these are them, which I mentioned earlier. Some of you might work in organisations where you think, oh, I'm quite interested in that apprenticeship as well. So if you're here from a creative organisation, you might be interested in some of the other ones. And Sam would be very happy to share information with you. But Content Creator is our very special, precious new baby, which we'd love for you to join us on the journey with. Yeah, we have years of experience of delivering apprenticeships. I've been managing creative apprenticeships at Chichester now since 2013. So it's well within my comfort zone and my wheelhouse. And as I say, I've got incredible teams of people who work with me on these programs. Right, let me tell you a little bit about the program. These are the questions that you might have, the things that you will need to be answered, hopefully questions you might have for me later. So the first thing is this apprenticeship is 18 months. What that means is your apprentice will be in training with us for 15 months, and that's when they'll be doing their online seminars, creating their coursework, building their portfolio, getting all of their experience in the workplace with you, and potentially doing English and maths if they need to. And then at the end of that 15 months, we put them through to what's called the gateway, and that's the moment where you, the employer, us as the training provider, and the apprentice all agree that the apprentice is ready for their endpoint assessment. And then they spend 3 months preparing for that. And I'll explain what the endpoint assessment is in a little bit. As I said earlier, it's really important that when you do contract your apprentice, who will work within your organisation we hope in this role doing some sort of content creation, obviously. That can be internal content, that could be for external delivery, it could be however you kind of create and deliver content for your organisation. But their contract has to last the length of the training. So even if they are with you now, and maybe they're on a slightly shorter term contract, if you did want to upskill them and pop them onto the apprenticeship, you'd need to extend their contract to finish at the end of the apprenticeship. We offer remote delivery. As I said, that's so that we can offer a national provision, but it also means that the apprentices will spend less time travelling to and from us, because even if they're an hour or an hour and a half away, we all know that trains are an absolute pain. So what that does is just removes any of those barriers, and it means that they can attend their lessons as quickly as possible, get straight down to understanding what the assessments are, learning the new knowledge and skills that they need to have, and then be sent back into your organisation where they can start practicing those skills, learning more from you and your teams, and collecting evidence of the stuff that they're doing really well on the job. The way that we're going to structure it at the moment, and the way that Vicky is building the programme, is we're going to do a full day's online seminar, and we do that once a month. It's pretty intense, so it's not necessarily something that we could offer them every week because it's a lot for them. But what we do within that seminar is we deliver the knowledge that they need to know, we go through some of the skills they need to develop, and we will then set them an assessment. And they will then spend the weeks in between those seminars doing that assignment. So that might be doing reading and research. It might be spending a little bit of time with different departments in your organisation to learn about different ways in which, you know, the content creation works in the organisation, or how other people function, or maybe how money comes into the organisation so they understand budgets, that sort of thing. Then they produce us that assessment, they'll hand that in, and then the next time they meet Vicky, they'll get a new assessment and they'll go on and do that. Towards the end of the programme, they do start working on a campaign of their own. So they will have delivered all of their skills and delivered all of their knowledge and understood all of their skills. And then Vicky will create a sort of a bespoke campaign that they have to work on and produce a content campaign for. That won't be specifically for your organisation. It'll be something that they work on theoretically, although it could be. You might have an apprentice who's brilliant and you want to give them the opportunity to do that, which would be amazing. Obviously, they'll be doing your content for you all the way through the time that they're doing their job. One of the compliance expectations of an apprenticeship, apart from them working in your organisation, is that you do a progress review with them every 10 to 12 weeks. And we need to be part of that. So we will do a progress review. We'll set it up for you online. If you're close enough, it might be that we can visit. But generally speaking, we'll get together with you, the apprentice, and ourselves, and we will just review how they're getting on. We'll look at all the knowledge, skills, and behaviours that they should have been learning and developing. We'll look at how they're progressing. We'll look at how they're fitting in the organisation. Are they following your instructions? Do they work well with your colleagues? Are you happy with the level of commitment that they need to give as part of the course? And are they progressing? Are they learning and developing and adding, value to your organisation? That's really important to us. We have to do those meetings as part of the funding requirement to make sure that you're part of that discussion all the time. And obviously Vicky will make sure that she stays closely in touch with you if you need any other support, or if your apprentice does as well. The cost of the training is funded by the government. So I might have put this in a later slide actually, but I'll mention it here briefly. What that means is if you are an organisation that has a levy pot, if you're not sure whether you are or you aren't, it's to do with the amount of money that your pay bill is at the end of each year, which I think is above 3 million. Is that right, Sam? Yeah. So if you have a pay bill above £3 million, then you will have a levy pot that will already exist. And basically what that is it's tax. It's a portion of your tax that comes out of the tax and sits in a special pot with the government that can only be used for training apprentices. So it'll sit there unused if it's not being utilised efficiently. If you're not a levy payer, for example, you don't have a £3 million pay bill, and a lot of our organisations are not, they're all small and medium businesses. Then the government will pay for almost all of the training, depending on the age of your apprentice. I think if they're 21, Sam, am I right? If they're 21, then you'll be required to pay a 5% contribution, which for this apprenticeship is £500, and that's for the whole 18 months. And the college will invoice you for that monthly. So it's not very much money. And there are no other costs, obviously, apart from the apprentice's salary to you for their training, which is really useful. You will need to provide kit and software and that sort of stuff, but that will naturally occur in your business anyway. Vicky will be our expert trainer, and we have a brilliant kind of marketing and development team at the college as well, who I'm sure will input as and when necessary. And then the last thing to say is, if for any reason the apprentice that you choose, or if you are an apprentice here in the meeting and you don't have your English and maths yet, which means a grade 4 or above at GCSE level for English and maths, we would need to think very carefully about whether or not that apprentice was absolutely suitable for that role. Doing English and maths alongside an apprenticeship is quite difficult. It adds an additional 1.5 hours training every week to the apprentices sort of contract and the time that they spend, but it also adds a lot of additional pressure. And the apprentice won't be able to do the endpoint assessment until they've passed English and maths. And our experience sometimes is that that can be a real barrier to success. So we sometimes, if you find an apprentice who doesn't have those qualifications, but you're desperate to have them, we would encourage you to encourage them to take those qualifications again, either privately or in their own school or in another course, maybe doing a level 3 at college so that they can redo those quals and then coming back to the apprenticeship at a slightly later date. If they have one and not the other, then we can certainly have discussions around how we embed that into the training. That's not impossible to do. But as I say, it does add just a little bit of extra time to their training and a little bit of extra commitment from them. There are some responsibilities that an employer needs to have as part of an apprenticeship. It's important to know that the apprentice will spend 80% of their time training and working with you, under you, and with your teams. Only 20% of that time is with us. So there's an enormous responsibility on them to be in a workplace that is informative and willing to share skills and knowledge, and giving them the opportunity to develop all of the skills that they need to pass the apprenticeship. Doing so requires them to have a really kind of focused and dedicated workplace mentor. We offer employer inductions and we offer support for workplace mentors. So if you think, oh, you know, that might be a bit of a stumbling block for us, we've never done an apprenticeship before, I'm not really sure how the staff are going to take it, we can offer some support around that. Absolutely. We can do an online, you know, meeting with those people. We can do a bit of training, and our apprenticeship in sort of employers induction always helps with that when we do a kind of line managers welcome to apprenticeships as part of the process. They need to have access to the workplace. Obviously, they need to be able to use your software, your hardware, and all of your equipment. And you need to have somebody in that organization who's prepared to show them how it works, the same way that you would with anybody else you were inducting, but with an understanding that they might not have used that equipment before and have a little bit of kind of time set aside to show them how to use it. It's important that you offer opportunities for training, and that could be internal training, that could be external training around, you know, their own sort of resilience and well-being, those sorts of things, but also that they get plenty of opportunity to shadow others and be mentored by others in the organisation. That's what makes an excellent apprenticeship. As part of the contracted time with you, they need to be given 6 hours each week within that time to do their training, what we call the off-the-job training. Once you join the apprenticeship journey, you'll hear this term 1,000 times a week. Their off-the-job learning is what they do in their sessions with Vicky. So those are 6 hours planned once a month. And then they need to be given 6 hours each week in the preceding weeks, or the preceding weeks, to make sure that they can collect and get all the evidence ready before they hand in their next assignment. Sometimes employers will allow their apprentices to attend the webinars and the seminars from home, just because they need a quiet place where they can focus entirely on the lesson, and then ask them to come in the following weeks on that day so that they can ensure that the apprentice is actually working because it's paid hours. Some employers are very happy that they trust their apprentice will get on better at home. They won't get pulled into any work in the office, and allow them actually that 1 day a week or 6 hours a week to do that work from home. That's entirely up to you to decide how you want to manage that and what that will look like. You need to provide a safe and inclusive working environment, as we would expect for any place that we would that you would have an employee. And we hope that you'll be able to support us in monitoring their progress according to their training plan. So Vicky and I are working very hard at the moment to pull together a really kind of robust and detailed and challenging but fun training plan for them. And that will have all the dates and all the topics and all the subjects that they're going to be studying that you will get at interview. So you will know at the beginning of the process everything that they're going to study throughout the process. And we ask you to just keep a track on that with them once a month, making sure that they know what they're doing and they're on track. Oh, wrong way. Ideally, you'll be able to give feedback to the apprentices, set them targets and sort of goals to achieve. I like to call it actionable feedback. So feedback that means you can see whether they're listening and responding to your needs. And that feedback doesn't always have to be based on the apprenticeship. In fact, more often than not, that feedback is based on the role. Maybe their professional behaviours, maybe some skills they need to develop, or maybe some things they've been doing brilliantly that they need to continue doing. But it's just taking responsibility for offering that one-to-one support and feedback that they need as part of their training. And then as you get towards the end of the apprenticeship, we hope that you as an employer will communicate some progress opportunities with them. So talk about opportunities that might be available for them in your organisation, or help them seek opportunities outside of the organisation as they move on to their next challenge. Before we go to questions, actually, I just want to ask Vicky if she wouldn't mind. I'm gonna go on to this slide here. We're going to share this slide with you at the end of the training, at the end of the webinar today, which has all of our contact details, phone number, and 2 very useful websites if you want to read some more information about the Content Creator Apprenticeship. But I have just asked Vicky, and I'm going to stop sharing so that we don't have to keep looking at the PowerPoint. I have just asked Vicky if she'll just share with us some of the content actually that the apprentice will be working on, some of the topics and the modules, so that you can have an idea of what they'll be learning. Are you happy to do that, Vicky?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So I will help guide the apprentices through their course, and that's going right from everything that they're going to need to know to be able to be a content creator within your organisation. So understanding your brand values, how to interpret your brand and reach target audiences, understanding what target audiences are and how to approach them and how to make sure that they're getting the content out that you need with the message that you're trying to give out to the audience that you're trying to get to. So producing a successful kind of marketing campaign and everything that they need to be able to do that. So that includes all of the technical skills. So we use industry standard software of Adobe Creative Suite, being able to create short form content for social media, so different platforms, being able to put things from one platform to a different platform, making sure that all of the settings and the output looks professional and it's meeting sort of your brand values, really. We also will be looking at things like the legalities of it, ensuring that GDPR and any web accessibility, data protection, sharing, ethical, equality, diversity, inclusion, all of these things that need to be covered to ensure that they're, your brand is going to be positively represented, then that's things that we're going to include as well. Being able to write persuasively and put persuasive copy in. So maybe you want them updating your website, giving out content that is persuasive in a way that meets the audience. So we'll be looking at things like that as well. Also collaborating with your sort of team and understanding how your business works and how that they can then embed that within the content that they're supplying for your business. Anything else? Everything that you can possibly imagine that they will need to know from start to finish, to be able to produce content, to put it out there on social media and for people to view, we will cover. So right from the brief, you wanted to set them a brief and said, okay, this is what I'd like them to complete. We go through every single step to make sure that by the end it's viable and it can be published and it can be out there for the public to access.
That's correct. That's brilliant. Thanks, Vicky. That's fantastic. No, that's really useful. I think what's really brilliant about this apprenticeship is it means that we can have a content creator apprentice in any sort of organization. We could have somebody working in a bank doing internal comms, and that could be their apprenticeship. We can have somebody working in a television studio doing video content and video communication. And that's where the content creator can sit. We can have somebody working with us. I'm saying this because our marketing, one of our marketing team are here at Adiba. We can have a marketing apprentice at the college doing, content for our kind of, she's laughing at me, doing content for the way that we work. So providing, accessible content for students to join the college and for our output on social media or internal programs that like, staff meetings and those sorts of things. So the content creation side of things actually will be dictated by you, the organization. And that's where our meetings and our interviews are really important. So we can find out what it is that you do, what is it that you want your apprentice to be doing, how much of what they're doing is like external and public communication, how much of it is internal, and also the kind of tools and software that you use so that we can make sure that what we use, which is, as Vicky was saying, we use Adobe at the college, but we might be able to engage in other softwares that are particularly more relevant to your field if that's useful. And just making sure that we can support them to understand the purpose behind the work that they do and that they understand, I like what Vicky was saying about the kind of protocols and processes and legislations around all the ways in which we can and can't produce media, which is important, I think, in content creation. Sam, do you want to talk a little bit about next steps, and then we'll do questions, like what happen if anybody's interested, what should they do next, and then what's the process?
Yeah, so for the learners out there, obviously reaching out and giving some prior information about yourselves. Obviously, we do a bit of vetting in terms of the GCSE grades and the other things that might be needed. But obviously, your first step is finding that connecting employer. So we will be advertising anyone that comes out who wants to advertise for roles. So on our our website, which I will share links to you as well once we get a little bit closer to our start date. Hopefully we'll have some adverts on there for your local area, but obviously this is across the country, so if you have somewhere in mind that you might want to work with, or you're excited to go forward with for your career, you will have my information. I'll quite happily talk to any employer that hasn't had an apprentice before to help educate and lead them through that process if they are interested. So that's for the learner side. Employer side, again, it's a bit of vetting on the side. So we have to check things like employer liability insurances, the fact that you have an apprenticeship service account set up. That's very important, because that's where your funding that Sally mentioned from the government gets pulled in from. And again, if you're wanting to advertise roles to potential students, if you don't have people already, then that's the platform we do it through also. So any sort of next steps, that's myself, and there's no silly questions, there's no if, whats and buts. If you'd like a further meeting individually to discuss your actual needs specifically, I have no issue with that also. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sam. I think one of the things that's important for you to note that whilst we've got you all here in the room together, what we really prefer is a really personal kind of one-to-one approach. So Sam and I will always make time for meetings, to sit with you and have discussions around what this could look like and how it would work in your organisation. So please reach out if you want to find out, a bit more about what the bespoke offer could be for you. Our timelines might not work for you, or anything that I've said today you go, oh, that doesn't fit with us, or our team certainly doesn't want an apprentice because that feels like a whole load of hard work. We can help allay any of those worries or fears, and we can certainly support with all of that. I can guarantee that it's unlikely that you'll pose anything to us that we haven't come across yet, that we can't solve. Vicky, is there anything else that you'd like to say, or do you feel happy?
I don't think so. I'm more than willing to take any questions if anyone's got any questions. I feel like I whizzed through my bit, but
no, it was great. It was really good. It was really useful. Thank you. We can always share, as I say, Vicky's building the program this term, so we don't have the bones of the program to share yet, but there's a link on the final slide that I showed you that takes you to the government page, which details what you will expect to get in this apprenticeship. And so that would be a good starting point for you to have a look at, particularly if you're a prospective apprentice. You want to have a little look at the kinds of skills that you'll be developing and the things, the opportunities for job roles, which might be really interesting for you. Does anybody have any questions that you'd like to answer? Please feel free to turn your cameras on if you like, or you can raise a hand or just unmute your mic and butt in. There's always the awkward moment of nobody's got any questions. Well, how are we doing, Sam? Are we clear in the chat? There's nobody got nothing to say?
No, nothing come through the chat, and I don't have anything on Q&A currently. So
great.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, hopefully we've given you enough to bite onto and take away with you. I really hope that it's been useful and that it's useful information. Sam, please feel free to share that PowerPoint with everybody who attended, so they can see it. And obviously, if anybody wants to get in touch with us, please do come back to me or go through Sam, and we'll answer any questions you might have. Great. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks, Lorraine. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Vicky. Thanks, Sam. Hi, Graham. Are you still there? Oh, he's gone. I like Graham. Is it still recording?
Yeah.
Let's stop the recording.